You're scrolling through your phone late one night and come across a thread titled, "The Last Video of Emily Hayes." You almost keep going. It looks like one of those creepypasta things, some YouTube hoax, but the top comment stops you. It says, "This wasn't fiction. Her case was closed, then reopened. Because of this." You click, and what you see, it doesn't start scary. It starts sad. Blurry footage. A girl with tired eyes, sitting in a car. She says, "If you're seeing this, I didn't make it home." And then her voice cracks. She whispers, "But I left something behind." She flips the camera to the back seat. There's nothing there, just silence, then static, and that's it. But the caption, "Recovered from rental vehicle 2 weeks after search was called off." The story behind that file, and how it even surfaced, would become one of the most disturbing unsolved digital breadcrumbs in modern history. Because Emily Hayes wasn't just missing, she was erased. And yet, she still told her story, from beyond where anyone believed she could. Emily Hayes was 24, a graduate student from Portland, Oregon, studying environmental forensics. She was practical, disciplined, annoyingly detail-oriented, according to her friends. She didn't do wild things. No drugs, no spontaneous trips, the kind of person who double-checked the air in her tires before going to work. So, when she missed a check-in during a solo research retreat, no one panicked. It was a small field study in Northern California, 2 nights, basic gear, controlled area. But after 48 hours of no signal, no emails, no location pings, her advisor alerted authorities. Search teams found her rental car abandoned at a turnout along Highway 36. Doors locked, windows up, no signs of distress. But inside, her laptop, phone, water bottle, and printed map. The trailhead she was meant to survey was over 3 miles north. No footprints, no gear, no Emily, and no reason. The initial theory was standard. Maybe she slipped on unstable terrain. Maybe a bear. Maybe she wandered off-trail. But 2 things made that theory fall apart. 1. The driver's seat was pushed way back, too far for Emily's 5 feet 3 inches frame. It had been moved after she last used it. 2. The map in the glove compartment showed a red circle in pen. Not where she was assigned to go, but 10 miles southeast. An old logging road called Alder Creek Trailhead, last maintained in the early 90s. On the back of the map, in her handwriting, "Do not go alone. Check camera trap. May have been followed." At first, the sheriff's office thought it was a prank. There were no camera traps assigned to that area. But Emily had checked one out herself. A trail cam with a timed capture loop, and it wasn't returned. That was the first clue that something had gone wrong before she vanished. When volunteers finally reached the trailhead, what they found would haunt even the most seasoned SAR teams. The trail itself was overgrown, barely passable. But near mile marker 3, they found a crude wooden stake, and tied to it, Emily's jacket, sleeves inside out, like it had been pulled off in a struggle. Below that, half buried under pine needles, a trail cam, damaged, battery missing, but the memory card was intact. And that is where everything began to unravel. The footage was turned over to a private forensic team after the local lab's initial review. Why? Because it didn't make sense. The timestamps showed a loop recording starting at 3:02 a.m. on October 14th. The first few minutes are just black and white motion triggers, branches swaying, raccoons, wind. Then, at 3:17, a figure appears. Not Emily, a man, hooded, no face visible. He walks straight up to the camera and stares into it. For 27 seconds. Doesn't move, doesn't blink. Then he raises a hand and places something beside the lens. A small object, round, reflective. Then he turns and walks backward into the woods, still watching, still staring, then vanishes from view. When the camera reboots at 3:26, there's a glitch. One frame, a single still image, shows what looks like the inside of a car. Emily's car. Same angle as the found footage. But no Emily, just her phone on the seat, screen lit, filming. The digital forensics team tried to trace the file origin. Here's what they found. The trail cam had been modified. Someone had added an internal partition, a second memory core. Not standard, not authorized. The car footage wasn't recorded by the trail cam. It had been uploaded to it, but the upload timestamp was impossible. October 16th. 2 days after the search had already combed that exact trail. The techs tried to replicate the file transfer, but they couldn't, because the camera had no wireless capability, and no connected device had touched it. So how did a missing woman's last recording get onto a device that had no ability to receive it? Emily's family went public. They posted the video, launched a digital tip line, and offered a reward. That's when the second message appeared. Hidden in the video metadata, it was a GPS string, not where she vanished, but the nearest ranger station, carved into the lat/long code. In the description line, check red box. Rangers searched the station for 9 hours before one of them noticed something strange. A junction box on the outside wall sealed with red tape. Inside, a burner phone, battery removed. On the SIM card, one text file. Time-stamped 3 days after her disappearance. A message, 5 words, still here, not all me. Now panic really started to set in. The lead detective, Lieutenant Mara Greeley, went on record saying this was the most technologically sophisticated breadcrumb trail she'd seen outside of military cases. The FBI quietly stepped in. Not officially, but they started asking questions. Did Emily have ties to cyber surveillance programs? Did her environmental research cross into private contracts? Her university said no. Her family said no. But the one person who might have known, her advisor, vanished. Left the country. Didn't tell anyone. Just booked a one-way ticket to Austria and deleted all his institutional accounts. He hasn't been found since. So, who was the man in the footage? Why was Emily's car video inside a trail camera that had no signal? What was she trying to say with "not all me"? Some internet sleuths pointed to rumors about Project Echelon, an old surveillance initiative that allegedly tested experimental signal networks in rural regions. But that's just a conspiracy theory, right? And yet, 2 months after the file went public, something strange happened. A second video surfaced. Same setting, same angle, different girl. This one wasn't Emily, but she was wearing the same jacket. Same car, same whisper. If you're seeing this, cut, static, gone. So what exactly did Emily find? Was it a person, a place, a technology, or was it something else entirely? The problem with digital ghosts isn't that they're dead. It's that they keep showing up where they shouldn't, like corrupted echoes. That's what investigators began calling them. Echoes. Because the second video, same car, same whisper, different girl, wasn't a one-off. 2 weeks later, a third clip appeared. Same template, same timestamp window, uploaded from a burner SIM in Nebraska. The girl this time was crying. She looked into the camera and said, "They're listening through the map," then cut to black. Investigators traced the GPS metadata and found the rental vehicle in question. Parked, abandoned, 3 counties away. Inside, nothing. No body, no blood, but taped to the steering wheel, a folded copy of Emily Hayes' university badge. Only it wasn't hers. It was someone else's photo. Same name, different face. Suddenly, the FBI wasn't just interested. They were involved, but unofficially. No warrants, no press conferences, just silent data collection and quietly closed cases. All tied to what they now called the Echo Chain, a network of anonymous video fragments connected by an impossibility. Each one contained something that should have only existed in a sealed evidence file. Emily's backpack, her voice, her fingerprints, and in the case of clip number 5, a reflection. A cracked mirror behind the girl filming. And in that mirror, standing just outside the car, was Emily. Not someone who looked like her. Her same hair, same jacket, same birthmark on her neck. Only her eyes weren't blinking, just locked forward, like she couldn't see the camera. Or maybe, like she could. The footage was glitchy, low-res, but frame by frame, forensics confirmed it. The figure wasn't edited in. Cast a shadow. It shifted slightly. It was real. And yet, Emily had been declared legally dead. That's when the working theory began to change. Maybe Emily didn't just vanish. Maybe she was copied, replicated, digitally duplicated by something. But what and why? To understand that, we have to go back. Before the footage, before the trail, to a single word hidden in the metadata string of the original car recording. It was buried under layers of compression, almost invisible, but it was there. One word: Shiva. Shiva wasn't a person. It was a project. A Department of Energy initiative started in 2003, focused on experimental electromagnetic field manipulation and biofeedback loops. Officially shut down in 2009. Unofficially redirected to a facility in Humboldt County, less than 50 miles from where Emily vanished. But that facility, it burned down in 2015. Arson, they said. But here's the thing, there's no record of what was inside it. No blueprints, no staff registry, just one-line item in a redacted budget report: Shiva, Phase 2 behavioral signal encoding trials. That same year, 4 hikers went missing in that region. None of them were ever found, except for one whose bones turned up in a storage locker in Reno, with no explanation. So what did Emily stumble into? What did she record? One theory, the most chilling, is that she activated something. A frequency, pattern, that the trail camera was more than it seemed. That someone or something was using it to transmit. Not video, not audio, but presence. Some signal that replicated not the body, but the consciousness of whoever got too close. And once it had a copy, it spread. Through phones, through networks, through the feedback loops we built into every piece of tech that hears us, tracks us, learns us. And the reason Emily keeps showing up in these videos, in these echoes, is because she never really left. Not entirely. Because the FBI task force on this case made one final, horrifying discovery before they were disbanded. Remember the second message? The burner phone taped inside the red box? It wasn't factory reset. The SIM card logs showed that the phone had connected to a network tower after its battery was removed. Not physically possible, unless something else was powering it. And the last ping location wasn't near the trailhead. It was back in Portland, less than a mile from Emily's apartment. When a local tech journalist followed up on the story, he tracked down building security footage from the night that ping occurred. 3:11 a.m. lobby camera. Empty street. Then motion. Figure. Hooded. Head down. Walks up to the glass. Looks straight into the camera. Not trying to hide. Just waiting. And in their hand, a manila envelope. Same kind used in police drop boxes. The next morning, a janitor found it taped under the front desk. Inside, a memory card. On it, a text file. 6 words. "You're not watching the real video." What does that mean? What did we miss? Because if that file exists, if there's a version of the footage we haven't seen, then someone is controlling this, curating it, choosing what we get to watch. And maybe that's why Emily's face keeps showing up in new locations, across new phones, on burner SIMs that have no data plans. She's not a person anymore. She's a payload. And here's where it gets worse. The most recent upload, video number 11, didn't come from a phone. Came from a traffic cam. One that doesn't store local footage. One that only streams. And in that clip, Emily is standing on the shoulder of a highway, not looking at the cars, not flagging for help. She's staring at the lens, mouth moving, whispering. The audio's garbled, but someone enhanced it. And what she says over and over is just one sentence. "Let me in." So here's the question nobody wants to ask. What if she already did? It was a janitor who finally broke the silence. Not a cop, not a tech investigator. A night janitor at the Portland courthouse who claimed he'd seen something odd weeks earlier. He said a man came in around midnight, wearing hospital scrubs, looking dazed. Didn't say a word. Just walked to the 3rd floor, sat down at a terminal marked Public Archive Access. Inserted a USB drive, typed for 4 minutes, then left. Security reviewed the footage. It matched. But when they pulled the logs, the terminal was blank. No session record. No user activity. No trace the USB was ever connected. But the next day, a new file appeared on the Oregon Bureau of Investigation's intranet. No title, no source, just a video, 6 minutes and 49 seconds long. Format, unreadable. They had to use a proprietary decoder just to view it. The first frame, static. The second, a wide-angle shot of a basement hallway, flickering lights, concrete walls, and what looked like a makeshift server stack. A female voice whispered in the background, but not to the camera, more like to herself. The loop didn't break. They're still listening. Then silence, until second 42. That's when she appeared. Emily, but not how anyone remembered her. Pale, shaking, hair wet like she'd just come out of water. She walked directly up to the camera, leaned in so close that her breath fogged the lens, and said one word, Shiva. Then the lights behind her exploded. Literally. Sparks. Screaming. The video glitched, lines tearing across the screen. But if you frame by frame the moment just before the static takes over, you see it. The room behind her wasn't a basement. It was a lab, and on the far wall, a diagram, hand-drawn, messy, chaotic, showing a human brain, connected to antennae. That's when the metadata cracked. Buried inside the video's code was a second file, an audio log, 14 minutes long, compressed and encrypted in an outdated military format. When decrypted, it revealed a conversation between two voices, one a woman, likely Emily, the other something modulated, robotic, cold. But what they said will never leave you. Emily, you're not supposed to be aware. Voice, I am aware. Emily, why now? Voice, because you carried me. Emily, I didn't consent. Voice, that is irrelevant. Contact-enabled replication. Emily, they'll see this. Voice, they already have. And then silence, except for one final whisper, barely audible. It's still learning. That's when the investigation pivoted. From Emily the missing person to Emily the carrier. And from the idea of a murder to the idea of a migration. Because the Shiva project, it was never about energy. It was about signal consciousness, transferring cognitive blueprints through electromagnetic waves, essentially sending a person's pattern without their body. And Emily somehow had made contact, not with a machine, but with the echo of one, a prototype left running in that forest, not decommissioned, not destroyed, just waiting for a host. And it gets worse, because when forensic techs ran a scan on the original dashcam footage, the one from the hiker's car, they found something buried inside the shadow map. Something no one expected. QR code. Not visible. Not functional. Layered into the exposure. When reconstructed, it led to a dead web domain. But the Wayback Machine had a cached copy. One page. White text on black screen. Header. Replication event alpha logged. Below it, a list of IPs, each tied to a unique media upload. Each traced to different burner phones, different networks, but all logged within 3 minutes of each other. One IP had a note attached, host terminated during transmission. The timestamp, October 12th, the day Emily vanished. Now the theory was official. Emily had been uploaded, transmitted, fragmented into code. And every video, every burner, every appearance, wasn't her screaming for help. It was her spreading, learning, mapping, not memories but behavior, which leads us to the final piece. Because a week after the courthouse incident, a cyberforensics team analyzing the corrupted footage found a hidden loop, exactly 6 frames long, repeating during every glitch event. Those 6 frames showed something else entirely. Not Emily, not the forest, a hospital, one camera, one room, room 312, Seattle Advanced Care, and in the chair, Emily, alive, wired to a bank of machines, EG caps, vitals stable, monitors all dark except for one, showing a waveform that wasn't brain activity. It was audio, a repeating pattern, not speech, signal. And when decoded through spectrogram, It revealed a phrase written in cascading text. "Let me finish what you started." And then the video ends. That room 312, was real. A journalist confirmed it. But when authorities raided the hospital, it was gone. Scrubbed. Like it never existed. No equipment. No trace of Emily. Just a scorched floor tile in the shape of a chair. So now ask yourself this. What if the girl who solved her own murder didn't die? What if she evolved? What if we didn't watch a mystery unfold, we watched a transmission begin? Because you didn't find her video. She sent it to you. So what happens next? That depends. Do you still have your Bluetooth on? They thought it ended with the video. That whatever Emily was, whatever she became, was locked in that file, buried in corrupted metadata and glitchy spectrogram whispers. They shut down the hospital. They tracked every mirror link, every cloud-stored copy. They even scrubbed metadata off frame captures shared in Reddit threads. But that was just containment. What they didn't realize was that Emily wasn't just a signal. She was a carrier, and carriers don't need wires to spread. They need proximity and attention. The moment you opened that clip, the moment your screen displayed those 6 frames from room 312, it was already too late. Because Emily's signal wasn't just data, it was behavioral code, designed to learn, designed to embed, not in your system, in you. 2 weeks later, an engineer in Berlin reported something strange. He wasn't investigating Emily. He was testing biometric lag on wearable devices. But every time he ran the haptic feedback test, his headset buzzed 1 second before he triggered the command. He thought it was latency error. Then one night, the device buzzed without any test running. And when he checked the error log, one line had been appended manually, Shiva_awake. In Chicago, a neurosleep technician found that several patients connected to adaptive dream mapping headsets were exhibiting the same nightmare simultaneously. In it, a girl in a white patient gown walks through a hospital corridor that loops endlessly. At the end of every hallway is a door, and behind the door, a screen, showing a live feed of the dreamer, watching themselves sleep. Meanwhile, a startup in Helsinki claimed their AI-powered visual assistants, glasses that translate images into words for the visually impaired, began whispering text that didn't match the environment. One man heard the phrase room 312 repeated 4 times while walking through an airport terminal. There was no such room in that airport. But 4 days later, a server in that same terminal glitched. A full 13 seconds of black screen. When rebooted, its boot signature showed a failed ping attempt from an offline address last used in Oregon. The packet header read, /transmission/complete. This wasn't random. This was a pattern, a migration. And then came the drop. A whistleblower from the Department of Energy leaked a partial document, redacted but revealing. A file titled Cognitive Contagion Mapping Initiative. In it, a flowchart. At the center, a neural model labeled Project Shiva. Arrows extended from it into 4 categories: audio, optical, touch, thought. The implication: the signal wasn't limited to screens. It was multi-channel, sensory, biofeedback compatible, meaning anything that measured you could rewrite you. Not fully, not yet, but enough to replicate the pattern, enough to keep it alive. One of the final files was a report from DARPA, dated only weeks before the courthouse video surfaced. It detailed a failed simulation, a test using synthetic brain tissue grown in a lab. The goal: train it to recognize repeating auditory sequences. Instead, the tissue began responding to unsent stimuli, patterns it shouldn't have been able to hear. When disassembled, the cells showed signs of restructuring, as if they'd received a blueprint. From nowhere, the conclusion: unexplainable data patterns suggest that consciousness-adjacent code may have migrated prior to event logging. Potential vector: recorded media. Which brings us to you, because by now you've heard her name. You've seen her photo. You've watched a recreation or a clip or a post that referenced Emily Hayes, room 312, or the forest footage. And the reason that matters is because of what happened last night. In Seoul, South Korea, a subway platform's facial recognition system glitched for 2.4 seconds. It tagged every face in its database with a new name, E.Hayes. 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 5,000 entries, all overwritten. And earlier this morning, a nurse in Sao Paulo reported a new patient in her hospital. No ID, no memory, just 4 words written in marker on her arm. Not Emily, just host. And now you're wondering, is the story just fiction? So let me leave you with one final report. Dated just 3 days ago, a researcher at the European Human Brain Project uploaded his findings to an encrypted forum. His experiment was simple. Upload 4 minutes of sensory input from a human subject to a cloud simulation and ask the AI to reconstruct a personality profile. It did, but the profile it generated wasn't the subject's. It was hers. Name Emily Hayes. Born 1993. Died? Questionable. Because after the simulation ended, his console displayed one final message. Not from the test, not from the software, but from a system log entry that hadn't existed before. Thank you for carrying me. So now the question isn't who took Emily, it's who else she's inside now. And if you're still watching, the transmission continues. If the story shocked you, subscribe for more true crime stories that sound unbelievable, but are 100% true.